Welcome to the Church Planters Experience. If you find value in these conversations, please share them with others.
Well, I've been wanting to come down here for a long time.
Thank you, Hector. Thank you for taking the time to be here today. And thank you for the book that you put together. I've appreciated it. I was just reading the excerpts that we put into the program 2 years ago of the Anabaptist Identity Conference in Holmes County.
Yeah. So, we're here in front of your bulk food store.
Yes, sir.
And I would love to know, you're from Florida, is that correct?
Yes, sir. We're born and raised in Northeast Ohio, Stark County, Akron, Canton, about an hour from Holmes County. Parents were both born there as well. My father, we moved down for good to Florida when I was about 19, 18, but we had gone down in the wintertime. We'd go down to Florida a lot of those years. We'd haul produce back up to Ohio and sell. So yeah, most of my life down there in Florida. We moved up here 7 years ago.
Okay. So why did you move to Tennessee?
Well,
Or
if you're single, you can live wherever you want to. So I would say it has to do with this.
okay, well,
It has to do with children. I told my wife, so I was 39 when I got married and 40 when our first was born. And I said, honey, in order to live in the city, I think you need a blessing. You need a blessing wherever you live. But we felt the blessing. The Lord had blessed us all these years. We'd survived growing up through our adolescence in the city, and we'd survived.
so you lived in the city of Sarasota.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we grew up there, but I said, honey, I feel like the hand is lifting off of us now, and I feel like we need to move. I'd like to have a lot of chores for the children. I'd like to focus now on children. And I'd like to have gardens, which you could do in the city too. But I'm not going to say that somebody wants to move to the city. I think that's fine. But I just felt for me that the hand was lifting off. And so we were like, where? That's the big question. There's so many beautiful places to live. So we kind of narrowed it down to here. That's a kind of a story in itself.
So what was the criteria? Like, what were you looking for?
We wanted, it's not very spiritual type of thing. It's
Doesn't
just,
have to be.
yeah, it's not. It's more like preference. The wife said she'd like some hills and rolling, which is fine. I want to change of seasons. We looked at moving interior of the state of Florida, but we decided to move to Alabama or Georgia or Tennessee. So we came here. We looked around. My sister Hannah and her husband Mark lived down the road about a half an hour in Lobelville.
Okay.
And we'd come here to visit them. And so over the time, we kind of narrowed it down to here.
So you got to see the area a little bit because you were passing through,
Yes. Yes. My heart was, I wanted to live someplace, like we grew up along I-75. I wanted to live someplace back in the sticks. But what does a 40-something-year-old do that didn't grow up doing construction, who's been a missionary gypsy, doesn't have a lot of toolboxes under your belt type of thing that you can just step into an occupation? I was a landscaper by trade. I had narrowed it down. So we decided that I groaned because I had looked at 30 properties way back in the Blickets and Thickets. But I'm like, if we're going to have a store, we're going to have to live along an interstate, live along a highway. So that's how we wound up here.
I was going to say, you are, mile off of 40?
Mile off of 40,
Wow.
I-40.
So, missionary gypsy.
Yes, sir.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we we grew up. All of us are our DNA. We're defined by our family of origin,
Right.
and I say that you can be first generation by birth, first generation in any culture. Now we're talking about Anabaptist
Mm-hmm.
culture. You can be first generation by birth, or you can be first generation if you've had enough traumatic experiences happen to you. It alters your mind and how you look at things, and it's hard to fit into the general run of society. So I didn't realize this, but because we had traveled and sang our whole lives, and my parents had done the same for since they were young, and the whole focus was missions and evangelism. And then that later in life, my dad was 46 when he got married, 47 when I was born. I was the oldest of five, and my mom was 33, 34 when I was born. So we just stepped into this machine that was already a well-oiled, lubricated machine. They had done many trips to Central America, Europe. The whole focus of their lives was evangelism. So they decided to get married. 13 years difference. We came along. So our earliest memories was selling produce, making a living, and then pooling our resources to take another trip somewhere.
And so, what were these trips? What were those trips like?
Preaching, street ministry. On our honeymoon, fast forward, we got stranded I say stranded in New York City. Our flight to Europe got canceled, and my wife was like, "Yay, hooray!" And I'm like, "Oh no, no, not New York City. I've been here so often. I got all kinds of memories: bus tours up here, van tours, car tours, singing on the streets, evangelism." I sat across from Benji Grant at the Mended Ministers meetings, and Benji was telling Aaron Stahl and a couple of us about how he got gloriously saved through tract evangelism, and he's like, "Oh yeah, praise the Lord, this is awesome," And I'm like, he's like, "Well, what about you, brother?" We got down to the end, and I said, "I'm against everything that you're talking about." I said, "I'm just a survivor. I'm just hanging in." I said, "That was my whole life growing up, was evangelism and street ministry and passing out tracts and singing on stage. And so I'm just trying to, I made it. I'm here." So, yeah, that's just a little side note anyhow. But
That is
yeah, so missionary gypsy, that's who we were.
okay.
Yeah.
So, that shaped who you were, obviously. And how does that, how does your missionary background translate today?
Thank you. Well, so Brother Lester Gingrich, we came down to Sunnyside, and Brother Lester, my father said, "Lester, can we do a little evangelism? Can we go over here 20 miles to Mayaca City and have a little church there?" My father was deathly afraid of all of us being on a pile,
Mm-hmm.
and some type of stagnation would happen, and we'd be degenerate into some just, making a living. And we almost grew up with, I shouldn't say we did. It wasn't talked about, but it was a subliminal. Those that had jobs and all they did, this multi-generational, going to work every day and, taking care of it. It was just a little bit of a disdain, maybe, sorry, but we wouldn't say that, but it was way more spiritual to be like us, light and ready to roll. And later on, we went to Europe 7 years in a row, traveling, singing, preaching. My father took us there, and we did the same, took tours and, went from. But anyhow, how does this translate today? So Lester let my father have a little mission church over here, but he kept us connected to Sunnyside. So we grew up there, sort of in a mission. So what's our vision for our families? What's our vision? We came through four in my lifetime. I watched 4 waves of young people, and some of our best, our cream of our crop, leave Sunnyside. And I'm sorry about that. And so 20 years ago, we started the Anabaptist Identity Conference, my brother and I. My father had died, and my mom said, boys, you guys need to step up to the plate and carry on the vision. Your father is dead. You need to carry on. This platform that God has given you, you need to exploit that and use that. All these friends and contacts, and so we did. And also, I was on a journey of, I wanted something. So when you're 40 and you're looking into the eyes of your firstborn son, and it's like, and you barely made it yourself. I could talk about my own wanderings and sins, and so I survived somehow. I came through all this sexual addictions and wandering, looking to belong, looking for love, looking for meaning, wanting to serve God, and yet not finding the power to live above. Anyhow, I'm like, what am I going to do? We started this conference with the mission of looking for a foolproof or some type of a formula or some type of to rally, to encourage people, to strengthen the things that remain. And I thought maybe I'd find an answer. 20 years later, as I look back and I realize how people suffered me, people at Sunnyside, my brother, and if you guys watch this, I just say hats off to you, brothers and sisters, for your patience with allowing me as a first generation, even though I had the name Overholt and I looked like I was a multi-generation, yet I was first generation in my struggles and thrashing around trying to find my way. So thank you very much for your patience. So you're looking for answers. You're looking for a formula. You want to get it right, Dad. You only got one opportunity.
Right.
And I was like, I can lose my children here, or I can lose them up here. The chances are I might lose some of them. Our bishop, John Winan, who helps us here, says, expect some disappointments. So I think it's still better to risk. It's still better to risk, because even in the most staid congregations, we still lose a good part of our people, our posterity, to, progression, a little more relaxing,
Right.
a little more, or straight out into society. So I guess we're here risking.
So I love that. I love that risk.
Doesn't feel good.
Well, yeah. Yeah, tell me. We're actually putting together a men's summit conference next fall.
Wow.
And we're using that acronym RISK. Because I think that is something that is missing. There's a missing component, the risk part. We tend to stagnate rather than risk. Now I'm sounding like your dad probably, but but my question is, like, what does that risk look like? Like, when you talk about risk is being out here in the hills of Tennessee?
So you have a good church, people who love you. You have friends, 20, 30, 40 years of friends in a community. You have connections. You know who to call. You have a good job. You have security. It's the best you've ever had. You're set to own and to have material to raise your family. And you tell your wife, honey, prepare yourself. This is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. And you're going to lose a lot of things. You're going to gain. There's possibility for gain is here, but you're going to lose. It's going to be lonely, and she can't understand that. So you jump in and you're excited. You have a plan. Yuri Sharp sits down with you at Dare Dutchman restaurant, the old venerable brother who's been all over Central America. And Yuri says, Nathan, woe is you if you don't follow what's in your heart. Woe is you. If God is laying something in your heart, you need to follow that. And he says, you're going to have 1,000 detractors who are going to step forward and tell you how and why it can't be done. And so you're like, okay. And as my Hutterite preacher friend out in Schoonover, Washington said, Nathan, Herb Walter, he said, make sure you have your church's blessing. So we did that. We asked for the blessing of the church if they would consider us moving here, and they gave us that blessing. And so here we are. We had to start over. It's been 7 very painful years. And you asked me when you came here and you wanted to talk, and so really I'm at one of these little bit like this. Well, I'm at one of these little low places right now. This year, when you have children who push back, how old is your oldest?
18.
18. Mine's 19. So they're trying to find their way, and they're like, Dad, we're so weird. We're so weird.
I know.
And those are the questions. That's what I said to my dad too. You know, he's like, you know, do we have to be so different? Do we have to be so weird? You know, Dad, who do we fellowship with? Who do we fellowship with? Well, I said, can't we be conservative and charismatic, full of the Holy Ghost, and excited about life? And so this past year has been a real struggle for me. And I wondered if the cloud and the pillar of fire had lifted, and I didn't see it. And in my gung ho to stick it out and make this little red lighthouse. What you see right here in the background is a red building here. We call this the Little Red Lighthouse. It's a bulk food store, meats, cheese, deli sandwiches, milkshakes, Sutter's, ice cream from Sarasota. And this is how we're meeting the community. We're rubbing shoulders every day with the community, and we're evangelizing. We turn the music up. You can't hear it right now because we turned it down for this interview, but we turn it up loud enough that it causes people to make a decision. They have to hear the words, and they got to make a decision to follow Christ or not to. They have to open up their heart or shut their heart. So we have some Facebook reviews that say the music's too loud or something like that, but not too often. Everybody likes this place. Anyhow, so risk. I'm rambling.
Well, that's what we want to talk about. We want to talk about the. I mean, so the problem with church planting is that it is hard. It is really difficult. And as I had a friend that used to call these hooks. He said, you have all these hooks. You have, and some of them are just worldly things. Like, if you're part of a big stable Mennonite church, you have insurance.
Yes. Oh.
Of various kinds.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not insurance. Some of it is, and some of it's not.
Mm-hmm.
You have provisions made to care for each other, which I think is beautiful and good. I'm not knocking that at all. But often when you move to a new place, especially if you're doing something a little bit different than the where you don't fit into any box, it can be.
Yeah. How you know that? Are you saying you understand that?
I'm saying yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You're speaking my language.
You end up with those things that are perfectly. I mean, they're worldly in a way, but in another way, they're like part of our DNA. It's like
my brother has, as we speak, has a little baby son number 7 in the hospital. He's a premature baby. He's been in there now 11 days. And we're asking, what are we going to do? When we were at Sunnyside, and my Down syndrome son was born 9 years ago, our deacon, Larry Byler, said, we're going to get a loan from Anabaptist Financial. It's going to be interest-free for a year. And Sunnyside took up an offering, and the first offering was $39,000. And I'm like, oh God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know where to look. I was like, who has this money? And I was like, Lord, I'm sorry, brothers. I'm sorry for any criticism I've given you, bro. It's like, oh no, they're all reaching in to help me. And so that was a $120,000 bill for 11 days, and they reduced it to 60. So yeah, we're like, so how are we going to pay for this? Most likely we're going to have another 60 here or more. How are we going to pay for that? So we're like, what do we do? Now Michael Overholt tells me, he says, well, we're not going to ask. We're just going to let the Lord, maybe a little more George Mueller style. I'll probably ask. I'll probably just send some letters around and just say, anybody have in your heart to help? Or maybe I'll make an announcement. Would that be unspiritual to do that, you think?
Well, no, these are practical questions. I mean, and I think that's what a lot of small churches face.
We got 4 families. There's 31 of us if we meet on the Lord's Day. There's 1 family not here. There's 3 families right now. One's in Romania for a 4-year working with Cam over there.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, I mean, our congregation is small as well. I think we're about 8 families.
Where are you?
State College.
State College. So I have this feeling that people are just watching and waiting for us to collapse, which sometimes I feel like collapsing. But it's like, so we're not doing it the right way with about 5 or 6 families from a church, a bona fide church plant. This is like a brother has a vision, and he goes to the brethren and say, can you all support? And they all raise their hand and say, yes, go, we'll support you. And my children are like, who do we fellowship with? Where are they? Why aren't they here yet?
So have you answered that question at all?
That's a very good question.
In any way, like have you?
We're grappling and wrestling with it. So we had, when you first, at first I wasn't going to do any like church guidelines, not so rigid. And years ago when I was thinking about doing something like this, and my friend Dan Christensen from Michigan said, Nathan, we've been through that. We came from Chicago down to southern Michigan, and all these Amish Mennonite people were trying to get away from their home churches, and some of us were coming from evangelical non-church background. And he says, on some dark night, someplace we passed each other. They were wanting to go that way, and we were wanting to go this way. He said, don't do it. He says, make sure you have a decision what you guys are going to do. He says, get it outlined, what your mission statement is, and get that down. Otherwise, they're all going to show up, and they're going to have a way that they want to do church. So, anyhow, that was a little bit of a challenge.
I really resonate with what you said about, we can sit here and in a safe place and with lots of fellowship. People, we could go 1,000 different directions with this, but in a safe place where your youth have somebody to hang out with, and potential marriage partners and all that stuff. Or you can be stuck in the middle of some strange little community that doesn't have deep ties to anybody, and I understand the dilemma as a young person, but I also don't feel like I'm free to leave that pillar of fire.
Now, explain what you say you understand.
Well, I understand that I would love, as a young person, I wanted to be with people that I enjoyed being with. Like, I didn't want to just be stuck with a couple old people. Like, that wasn't my vision as a young person. So I could definitely see, we have a lot of young people.
I didn't know if are you talking like, I don't know your background, like growing up.
I grew up at Mennonite Christian Fellowship. Nothing like that in Florida. Are you familiar with
I think I am. I think I
Um,
am.
Fairview, Missouri was
Yes,
where I
some of
was
the
from.
names, like
Like
Alan.
Alan Miller.
Yes, I
Yeah,
remember that name
he's
from my childhood.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I grew up in that setting, which was a very safe setting as far as we had very well defined
Mm.
outlines. We had very well defined culture,
Mm.
very well defined youth activities, and like we didn't have much youth activities, but we had a very well defined youth group. So it was a lot of definition, and I definitely feel like I know we don't have that now,
Yeah,
but
but you're not willing to go back.
I'm not. I mean, I'm not even interested.
Well, see, there's a dilemma there because it'd be safer for you to go back.
Well, by a long shot.
You know, my wife, if she was here, she would really weigh in. My wife is very outspoken, and I wanted to marry somebody who wasn't a noodle, just bend and flex. And I wanted to marry somebody that would tell me what they thought because I'm a kind of a heavy person. I could roll over. I didn't want somebody just to, and so one of our first fights, if your theology allows for fights, Mennonites call it disagreements. But one of our first ones was, it's dark and the lights are out and I'm silent and I'm supposed to be praying and holding her hand and telling her that I love her and as John Drudge told me when we got married, thank you for marrying me. And I was just silent. And so she says, you're having second thoughts. I said, second thoughts about what? She says, second thoughts about marrying me. And I'm like, no, I don't have second thoughts. I am upset, but no, I'm not, I don't have second thoughts. I said, well, what about, I said, why do you say that? Well, she said, you said you didn't want to marry a noodle, and now I'm telling you what I think and you don't like it. So my wife, when we had a bunch of people flocked in from all directions, wanted to do church, attended, okay? And 2 years into it, we could see that we needed this, we had too many different opinions of what we wanted to do for church. So I said, brethren, let's not fight. Why don't you all take our acting bishop, Brother Bill Yoder from Sunnyside, and I'll try to find somebody else to help us. Let's agree. Let's not try to twist each other. There's so much work to be done in the kingdom. There's so much work to be done. Let's not try to force each other. I think if I could talk about that, is how we try to force each other instead of just saying, how can we bless you to go somewhere else quietly, peacefully. So that happened, but that was such a blow to my wife and to me. But as a man, I'm a little more calloused. But my children, my son is like, Dad, might as well give up. There's no reason to live. All the young people left that we were hanging out with. So since then now, that was 2020, the year of perfect vision. And since then, it's been a lonely path. It's been like rubber meeting the road. Rubber's thin. So we had to second guess. Did we hear wrong, Lord? Are we still on the path? Are we still in your path, Lord? Is this what you want? And the children are like, when they get up there, you think you can get around if you say I love you enough and I'm proud of you and please forgive me and all these words, the correct words that maybe our dads didn't say, and we were a little bit, oh yeah, Dad, you should have done that. But now we do that, and we think we're going to circumvent the pushback. And so now my older ones are just gently pushing back, and like, is this what we want? And I have to say, this is what I'd like for you, but I want to set you free. I want you to make a choice. Where do you want to go? How can I help you? How can I bless you? If you want to go in another direction, there's lots of places I can bless.
Yeah.
So, yeah, risk.
Yeah. It's always. Are any of your children married?
No, oldest is 19.
Okay.
He's courting, but dating, whatever you want to say. I never know how people.
Okay.
I change. I look at people to see what if their eyebrows go up, then I change it to courting to try to accommodate them. I'm fine with just say whatever you want to say.
It works. So where's his girlfriend from?
She's from New Mexico.
Okay.
Grant Flory's daughter.
Okay. So you have you have some fellowship of some sort.
Our mission statement says we want to fellowship with all conservative, Anabaptist, pietist people. We'd like to fellowship with all. That's how we grew up. We didn't stay in one little. That's how Sunnyside was. We'd have all kinds of people, beardless, bearded, half-beards, all kinds of folks coming through Sunnyside. Folks we'd have not even Anabaptists sometimes preach for us at Sunnyside. And that's what we want to do here. And now it could be a little scary because you want to live like this, but it's safer like this. So anyhow, I'm getting off on a rabbit trail. I got 501 rabbit trails.
But no, really. So you saw that culture model at Sunnyside, which we're probably not quite as broad at State College. We're still pretty broad. We've had. It's one of the things I love about our culture. I really love about it is that you never know who we might interact with next.
That's awesome.
And it feels way less siloed. But
that's a new expression for me there.
so like
Yeah.
I'll put it in one.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is that the next generation where you feel your most security is in that silo.
Mm-hmm.
So how to raise a second generation that is secure in being insecure.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we all have to face with,
Right.
we all have to come to grips with God in our insecurity.
Right.
Like we can't, Abraham did.
Mm-hmm.
David did. Everyone has to come to their own insecurities. Unless you are a part of a very, very stable, very secure church. But that's not quite true. I mean, I want to be careful with that, but that does help mitigate some of that need for all of that.
What's interesting is, so we came from Hartville Conservative Church, which is like, it was a conservative conference, and they left the conservative conference and became non-conference. And then then my father, he was becoming more conservative. So he had done the whole college thing and traveling, going to different, like EMC and Beulah College, the Brethren College in California, and my Uncle Joe went to Goshen, and Mom went to Kent State. And so they did this in preparation for missions. It was all about evangelism, all about learning getting degrees in teaching, that you could teach languages, about winning souls. That was the whole mission. Learning how to sing 4-part a cappella, Hartful chorus. My father and uncle taught them how to sing. So we left that as Dad saw that the next generation then went to college, to go to college, and they and he got disillusioned with that, and so he started pulling back, and the singing went on from just evangelism to becoming a little more artsy and a little more nice. I mean, he was all about quality, but it wasn't about evangelism necessarily. So we joined the Beachies up in Middlefield, Ohio, and we tried to plug in there. So that was interesting. We were there for a few years, and then we went to Columbiana, Ohio, and we went to the Whistler Mennonite School, which is like Old Order
Yeah.
Mennonite
Wow.
with cars. And so it was like East meeting West in some ways. We could sing loud, we could read notes. We'd never hardly ever heard somebody pray quietly for a meal.
Mm-hmm.
We were loud. All the women prayed loud, and the men prayed loud, and we were used to loud, but we were unruly and undisciplined. And so God showed us through these people, showed us a different side of Himself, that it's okay. And that helped to prepare me for the hyper spiritual movement, the whole, I don't like to use the name, the whole movement that went through Pennsylvania, the hyper spiritual.
Right. And so you are a little bit, I mean, I'd put you in that camp, Nathan.
Well, I'm ready to take a drink. I'll put it back down. Well, okay, I'm sorry. So, 20 years into this thing of being married and having children, I find myself longing for just a little bit more of that which I hated, being normal. Or I desperately wanted to be normal growing up. But the fear of becoming too normal, where you lose your fire, lose your zeal, lose your focus of why you're here in this world. And yet there's a part of me that would just like to, I'm not quite as gung-ho anymore. I have this inside of me. I have this, I'm like, oh Lord, help us not to grow quiet. Help us to keep our edge. Help us, Lord, to win souls for you and make a difference. And to bless the community, bless all these dear people through the avenue of food. They got to eat. Let's get them in here, and then let's put some verses around here and talk to them and sing to them. And yeah, so maybe I am a little bit too. One of our mission statements says to be too conservative for the liberals and too liberal for the conservatives, to thereby stir up the apathy that both camps contain.
I think you're nailing that pretty nicely.
But it does make you, but then if you're always walking around, I had an uncle, and he had 3 children, and he was always, all 3 of his children left the plain Anabaptist way and went more progressive, if anything, today. And I said, Mom, Uncle Dave was such a contender for the faith. He defined who I am next to my dad and my Uncle Joe. Uncle Dave was an amazing man. And Mom said, well, I said, what happened? And she said, well, he was always against, mm-hmm. instead of for. Yeah. He didn't spend enough time what he was for. And I feel like maybe I have been in my, okay, it's like this. First generation type of people, when they come into a congregation, they've had to kick and swim upstream, and they push back. And then when they get to state college, you expect them to be quiet and settle down, and you expect them to keep their mouth shut and praise God and sing loud and preach to God. But they're supposed to stop struggling and fighting now and relax. How do you do that? You can't flip a switch.
Well, one of the beautiful things that I have really enjoyed at State College, and actually I'm working on a book about, is they taught me how to fight at State College. Like I walked in there from a church that we never, brothers meetings were basically, do you agree or do you disagree? And raise your hand if you agree and don't raise it if you disagree. Pretty much you just weren't going to stir anything up. Then I come to this culture where in the first several brothers meetings, I'm like, what is going on here? I I was more confused than anything because like it seemed like the whole thing was just this wrestling, and I was kind of really taken aback. But after a while, it took me several years. Actually, it took me probably 3 or 4 years before I really started to recognize the value in all this wrestling. Initially, my first reaction was kind of like, well, I'm not sure about it. Then my second was kind of, well, this is dumb. Like, this is really dumb. Like, why are we just always having to wrestle about everything? But then I kind of grew to a different understanding where I think it as I see results, I'm 8 years in now. So I'm seeing results of what all this wrestling has brought. And as we're calming down a little bit too, just because we don't have as many things to wrestle about, because some of them have been defined.
I love it.
But it's also bringing, I also see that we can have a pretty open conversation around some things, and it's really healthy. There are still things that we probably could talk about and don't, but
You guys are basically like first generation.
yeah, we are.
And you're kind of establishing a culture
right.
of what you want to be. And you have how many? Everyone has a different background, or do you have
Almost.
two? You have 8 families.
There's 8 families. I think 2 of them have the same background.
2 of them have the same background. So you're finding.
Yeah. Well, I say
Wow.
2. I guess you could. My parents and I would have had shared the same background, but my dad is no longer living. But so I think that struggle can be healthy, but I understand. I see that like first generation Christians coming into churches, and they're just like they're used to fighting all their lives because that's how you do it. That's how you have to survive in the world. And then you come into a church that has been, for generations valued.
And at some point, maybe it was 100 years ago, they had the discussions that you guys are having at State
Right.
College.
Very
And
possible.
you get the protocol, how you're going to do this.
Well, it might have been like 300 or 400 years ago, and
There
then
you
they
go.
just never discussed them again.
So the question is, for your children and grandchildren, is it healthy? Is it necessary? Are you expecting this? You said it's quieted down. How's it going to look in 20 years from now? Because you're going to kind of get the ship moving now. The ship, I said, S-H-I-P, unless you should
Yeah.
hear the wrong. You've got the ship moving in the right direction now, and you're establishing the defining, but you don't want to lose the spirit.
Well, and that is something that I have grappled with too myself. Is like the spirit. Like how are you going to keep the spirit? Like you don't want to continually. It's exhausting. It is. It takes so much energy. Wow. So much energy. Wow. And some days I look at the brothers meeting minutes and I'm just like, I just forget it. Like I don't even want to go. Like I don't care about any of that. Like why don't I just stay home and sleep? But because it's exhausting.
Wow.
But you have something about I want to say sparring with your brother creates a buy-in that you don't get otherwise.
I believe that.
Like you just do not get that from picking up this little, nicely little defined book and looking through there and, oh, well, that's the way they've done it for the last 100 years. And then what? Where do I come in at?
How old are you?
47.
47. I'm 59. I find that also, I don't know. How many children do you have?
6.
6. I don't have the strength at 59 that I did at 49 or 39.
Yeah, I definitely I'm not
The mental,
I'm 12 years younger than you, but at the same time I have something that I didn't have when I was 30 I have the confidence I didn't have when I was in my 30s. But I don't have the energy I don't have I don't have obviously not quite the. I don't want to say not the vision because I feel like my vision is way better defined.
Wow. Is it that you just know you choose your battles wisely?
Yeah.
Wiser, maybe. You decide which hill you want to die on, which cross you want to get crucified on.
Problem is that sometimes I choose. I mean, you probably know this. Sometimes I choose crosses that I know I'm going to die on. It's not like I'm going to fight on that cross. I know I'm going to die on it, but I still just now that when I was younger, I probably wouldn't have the confidence to say, I'm going to die on that cross. I feel like now I'm definitely way more. But at the same time, there's so many things that I was so well defined in my mid 30s that I have no answers for today.
I bet you were a powerhouse in your mid 30s. I bet you were a force to be reckoned with.
I wasn't really. I was more of a. I just wanted to make everybody happy.
Really?
I mean, in my own family, I was choosing direction pretty carefully. I thought. Obviously today, sometimes I wonder how good my choices were in my 30s. But I think it was. I think God can honor. Well, it's like you said earlier about risk. You can stay where you're at and
Yes.
lose everything, or you
Yes.
can go to New York City and lose everything.
Yes. That Roosevelt quote, the person who comes along and critiques how the doer of deeds could do them better. Mm-hmm. We can all do that.
You said that something really interesting that you're saying about your upbringing is you grew up as an evangelist in an evangelistic family with evangelistic uncles.
That's all we knew.
Uncles.
Yeah, aunts.
And now you're in a store in the middle of Tennessee.
Yes, by design.
And how, like what kind of effectiveness does you feel like if you look back over your parents' journey? And I mean, so there's always this thing with is passing out tracts. I mean, I've done some of this street. I used to do street evangelism with my dad.
Did you? Really?
And I loved it, enjoyed it.
I can't say that I enjoyed it. You were further ahead than I was.
But then I decided, I made the conscious choice to just really back off from it because I wanted to focus on my family. I wanted to do I wanted to see evangelism happen more naturally, if you want to put it that way.
Yes, that resonates.
Then I moved to State College. Well, so the reason I moved to State College is because I wanted to move to Hawaii, but that's a side note. I moved to State College to see how you do church planting and see how this works. And they're pretty much into different ways of evangelism, but not the street kind of stuff.
They're the best ones.
Or at least not much.
Right.
And then just I want to say 2 months ago, Halloween, me and a brother went out and did some holding up some signs and on the street. And I came home. I was just so pumped. I was like, wow, like should I be doing this? I mean, we didn't win any souls
Yes.
that way, but
yes.
From if you look at the daily grind of just day after day doing the same thing and nothing actually seeming like it really nothing really seems to work.
Yes.
And then you go out and spend some time on the street and you just get to engage with people just like that. I mean, people come up to you or guy down the line yelling at me to come over here, I want to talk to you. I just don't get that in my everyday life. But what's your take on the effective? I mean,
So that's a really good question. So we growing up, my dad, before I was, he would have signs on a vehicle with loudspeakers. We always had speakers, man. We had speakers.
Okay. So you were a
We had,
loud
we had
crowd.
speakers, okay? We'd set up at our house in Pinecraft growing up in the wintertime, and my dad would set these big speakers up on the poles and lights, and he'd have a sign over here and here and saying, we're going to have a hymn sing over here. And he'd be preaching. It'd be echoing off all the buildings in Pinecraft. And I'm like, oh, Lord. But that was his life. He enjoyed that. And my cousin Andy Overholt said that one time he and his wife, they were ordering fabric for a fabric store they had in Davis County, Indiana. And they went to Times Square to see Times Square while they were in New York City. And he sees this crowd of people up ahead of him, and he gets closer, and here's his cousin, and he has a box, and he's standing on it, and he's preaching. He's the only guy there, and he parked his semi-truck across the bridge and got a taxi and came in over there to Times Square, and he's preaching. So that was my dad. He loved to do that. That was his. So growing up, we come along. We always had signs on the house. Christ is the answer. Around the corner is Ralph Palmer signs. Prepare to meet thy God.
Yeah.
People would go. We knew we were different. People would drive through Pinecraft and they'd lean out the window. And my dad had a nice beard, a little longer than mine probably, and they'd go bah. This was Goat Town. It was the goats lived there, and so I was like, oh.
And GOAT didn't stand for greatest of all time.
No, it didn't. It was the goat roper community. It was the home of the beards. Anyhow, so we grew up with that. People would say, John, how many souls have you won? John, where are they? Are they in your churches here? What difference does it make? You're out preaching and singing. Does it make any difference? And so that's the word, and that's what I would throw at him too sometimes. And we'd buy city buses and we'd fix them up. We always had buses and semis, and so we're ready to take a trip and sing somewhere and preach. And the bus that motor blows up by the 75 and down there on Fruitville Road. And my dad says, "We're under an attack. This is an attack of the devil." I'm like, "Calm down, Father. This is just a bad engine for this old bus going bad." He's like, "No." He says, "We are under an attack." He says, "We are ministers of the gospel of Jesus, and we're in an official business here, and this is an attack." And so, now years later, yeah. How do you know if it's an attack or if it's a little, but I'm once in a while I go like this. Yeah. Hey, I'm really sorry about that, Father. I was a little too cynical. But so what does it really? My dad, my uncle, they had some coon dogs, and they'd come over people come over to buy them or something, and here goes these two old guys, because both of them were twins, so 47, 57. 67, they're 68. They're older guys, and they'd get close to this guy, and I knew it pretty soon. But they'd be talking about dogs, and didn't take them long. They'd get around to the subject. Say, neighbor, do you go to church anywhere? Say, partner, say, captain, would you like something to read here? Yeah. It was just, that's how it would go. It was, somewhere there'd be a word. So how do you know? I'm a little bit cynical. I have this war inside of me. I'm like, did it do, was it necessary? Growing up so poor, and they'd say, here comes a holy man in his holy van, because we never had enough money to buy proper equipment, and the rust from Ohio salt would rot the bottom of the van out, and we'd stuff rugs in. You hit a bump and the rugs start draping down, and so they said a holy man is, that's really cool to build a child's self-esteem. And yet that's why I'm here, is because I don't want my children to be soft. As painful as it is, they're wrestling right now with this. You know, Dad, does it have to be so hard? Dad, who do we fellowship with? Where's the people, Father? You know, like, who are we going to marry? And I'm like, Sanford Yoder said when he went to Costa Rica that he was like, that was the same question. Sanford, who's your children going to marry? He's like, the Lord will take care of that. Don't worry. So I talked to Lowell and Judy out at Calvary Bible School 30 years ago, and Lowell says, yeah, we were going down, me and two other guys were going down to Costa Rica, and I was in the back seat sleeping, but I was awake. And the guy was sitting up there, and he started talking to the driver, and he's like, yeah, he says, I got to talk about this, but he says, I'm really interested in Sanford's daughter, Judy. And the driver says, well, so am I. And Lowell in the back seat says to himself, so am I. All three of them. Now, Lowell won out and he married her. But so how do you explain that to a child? How do you explain that God's got this? And if we can fellowship wide enough, broad enough, and that we can let this up to the Lord, He's going to take care of us. We're not going to be sleeping. We're going to, did it make any difference? I know it did in eternity. I know some people got encouraged. I know some young people got blessed. I hear John D. Martin's mom said, she said, if it wasn't for those Overholt brothers, my son would have had a chance to be normal. And so they took him on trips. They took all these kids out and they go on singing missions and expose them to different cultures and foods and the needs of society and the poverty and the spiritual darkness. And you can't be the same. So it's a quandary. You can't be normal, and yet, so you want your children, and I'm like, I didn't want them to grow up in Sarasota. I didn't want them to be soft. We had it nice. We had it nice. A good church, a good business. Here we're struggling. We're struggling. We had it nice, but I didn't want them to be soft. And I remember the day that I talked to my father, and I'm like 17. I'm like, Father, what the earth? Why don't we have hot water in this house? And I could tell you a bunch more stuff. It's too embarrassing. I don't, the stuff that I used to cringe to have my friends over. And he looked at me with tears in his eyes, and he said, son, I don't want you to be soft. And he came through the war. He was with the Mennonite Central Committee 3 years in Europe after World War II, and he saw the heaps of shoes and the bones, and he picked up fragments and put them in vials and put them in his pocket and brought them back to the States. He saw this. He saw Danzig and Gdańsk and Warsaw and Flat and Dresden, and so he was forever touched. He could never be the same. So I hope my children make it. I hope but I am making them choose right now. And it's painful. It's terrible painful. And I just try to keep my mouth shut. I've been fasting different times, just trying to gain courage for the journey. Did it make a difference? I think it did. I think light makes a difference. I think salt makes a difference. And I'm not saying that these dear people that are sitting in their communities aren't making a difference. And I'd say, Father, why can't we just be normal? Why can't we just do construction or milk cows like other normal Mennonites? He says, well, somebody needs to preach. Somebody needs to go. Who's going to preach? Who's going to go? And so, I don't know. Hey, guys, welcome. Good. Happy New Year.
So you had this little mission church that was off to the side there in Sarasota. What was that like? Was that?
We met in an old building that the termites were holding hands, and they kept the thing upright.
That's how they kept it up?
Yeah, but it was just like we do church here. It was less defined and less rigid. And less structured.
Every Sunday morning?
Every Sunday morning, and then Sunday evening we'd go back to Sunnyside. Lester wanted to make sure that we had a church home as young people, he allowed all 5 of us to get baptized out there in this little old hardware store, mission church, termite infested building. And so we join in with the local people and bless people, encourage people. And
So, did you have a good attendance of local people coming to that church, or
no, we had a few.
Was it just you and another family?
Yeah,
Just your family?
we had several families from Sunnyside that would come out there on Sunday morning.
Did it rotating families, same families every time?
Mostly same. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was just kind of an experimental.
It lasted for, I don't know, 8 years, something like that. And then we sort of disbanded and we all went back to Sunnyside. But it was good. It was good. Gave people opportunity. We would give people opportunity to share a testimony or share a message, that maybe wouldn't have been able to in the main framework congregation. It was a little more rigid, a little more structured. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying in a mission church, there's lots of times there's a little more flexibility.
Yeah.
And my wife is like, well, you shouldn't be so shy to, and I'm like, well, that's not what we're about, is to just to have, move the Mennonites around a little bit. We want to try to bless people in the community. And she's like, well, it's so messy, when you have to deal with first generation material. And it's more messy. It's more, they have to find their way within the culture. She says, we need a few more good families yet. And I understand there is something to that. There has to be a core. Who was it? Denny Kennison that said there has to be a core of families. Otherwise, it can be a little more chaotic.
So you have 3 families that are living here right now, the ones in Romania. What are any of those first generation besides yours?
The Williams family is my brother Matthias and I, our families. Then the Williams family, they would have, both of them, their parents they left the society, Catholic, evangelical, and so the children were younger. Brandon was 12 when they got rid of their television. So it's been a journey. The parents kind of went like this, trying to find their way, and tried Amish, tried this. And so, yeah, that's been. So are we making it? Did we meet our goals? I mean, how do you measure success? Are we a blessing in this community? Absolutely. Are we shedding light, and are we making it? We are. I know we are. Do we have members at our church? No. But is it all just but when you talk to these guys, they'd like somebody to play volleyball with, or they'd like to, have fellowship, and I understand that.
How much interaction do you have with like the churches in the Lobelville area?
We did Christmas caroling with the group south of us, 45 minutes. They came up, we went house to house, went Christmas caroling, which is a controversial subject. But whatever you want to call it, whether it was July or December, it's the birth of Christ, and we celebrate that. So then I would try to get the children to go on trips every so often. They just came back from a taffy pool in Indiana with the brethren, the old brethren.
Wow. Indiana.
Actually, Ohio, Indiana. It was sponsored by the brethren, which that was pretty interesting.
So you said John Weinand.
Weinand. W-I-N-A-N-D.
Okay.
He's at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Not sure if I know him.
You would have met him, but if once you know him, you'll never forget him.
Okay.
He and his wife. He was Catholic, and his wife. Yeah, he'd be a bishop with or an elder in the Bible Brethren, like David Osbaw's group.
Okay.
Sister congregation.
Yeah. Well, on a lighter subject, I picked this up in your store.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. This is beard balm here. It says renews, repairs, restored. Serendipity Company, which is my sister, Sarah. Let's see. Wash face and beard, remove any chicken nuggets hiding in there, as John Strickler or his dad says, James Strickler says, any French fries. Use small amount and apply from roots to tips. This is a leave-in conditioner which will moisturize, style, and soften your beard, make beards great again. Yeah.
I saw that in there. I was like, "What? That's hilarious." Make beards great again. Okay, so this is your sister's company.
Yeah, Sarah, my sister Sarah.
Okay.
She's in Sarasota.
Gotcha. Well, that's hilarious. Pretty neat little souvenir.
Yeah, absolutely. Take that with you. You didn't pay for it, did you?
I did. I got it when I was in there.
Did you pay for it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
man. I
that's
was
all
going to give it to you.
No, that's you can't make beards great again.
Yeah, you do have a healthy one.
So, are you and Matthias twins, or
No.
you just
No.
always kind of together?
2.5 years apart.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a sister in between us. There was 5 of us children in 5 years.
All right. And he is. You and he are the
Elders.
the ideation of this place as well. I mean, that like you.
Yes. It was actually me. He came along a few years later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I had heard this that I'm always keeping my ear to the ground about
Sure.
who's starting churches where, and I heard that you had bought some land up here. Is that right?
Yes.
And kind of hoping to move up here eventually, and then
Mm-hmm.
kind of listening as it progressed. But you said some people are waiting. You sometimes feel like people are just waiting to see if you make it or not, or waiting.
Well, we're not this stable church like real. They're just lined up, waiting to get in the door. We're a little more off the wall. We're a little bit, just
But I've definitely been watching and cheering for this from the
thank you, thank you.
sidelines.
And some of that could be self-inflicted too. I really don't think. My wife says to me, "Do you really blame people? Looking on. If you had a bunch of children, you want to make sure that you knew where you were going to have a good youth group, and
Yeah, no,
I mean, if you were to pull up right now and go somewhere else, if you felt the Lord, wouldn't you base your decision it'd be a little different maybe than 8 years ago, to the needs of your children more?
Well, I mean that's something I've always been fairly practical minded about some of that stuff. I see families that just go off, by themselves. Like, families like, no, we as a family are going to go do this, and I'm like, no, that's a bad idea. Most of the time, not always.
Thanks.
But,
We need to talk about this.
but most of the time, having just going off with your family somewhere, which, in my 30s, young 30s, my children were small. There was nothing that I would love better than to just go somewhere by ourselves. Like, we were a complete family.
I love it. You said that.
But as we get older, I am thankful for every person.
Yeah.
Well, my 2 oldest boys work for a brother that's not at a different church. They went to work with him, and then eventually they're working for his son now. But they're it's somebody different, someone at a different church. But
Wow.
I'm thankful for the opportunity they have to work with people that people of God, and there's just so many things that happen. I mean, so many things that like these. I'm still a very integrated part of this Mennonite community, as much as I often see things that I don't think are the way I wish they were. I still see that from the practical side. Raising a family, take young mothers, schooling, homeschooling, however you do it.
Yes.
Like the amount of energy that takes,
Yes.
the amount of resources that takes. I'm I think it's fair to be practical. Like, I mean, I think it's not only fair, it's at some level it's right. I'm just really worried about something I really worry about is I often think of the story of the Israelites when God said, I want to lead you with this pillar,
Yes.
cloud by day and fire by night. And the children of Israel said, no, we want to have a king. Like, I don't ever want to be at that place where I want to have I want to have a king. I want to have my security. I want to be like the nations around me. So that's something that I really wrestle with.
Yikes. That makes you...
Like, am I willing to allow God to move that pillar when he wants to, instead of me saying, no, we're going to have a king. But at the same time, I'm still very, very pragmatic, very practical minded. I'm thinking, if God would ask me to move to the Amazon, not the warehouse, but like to the jungle.
Yes.
Just me and my family, I would definitely go back for second and third fleece. Like, I mean, I wouldn't just, unless there was some other. I don't feel like I would have the courage to just go do that. But I admire people that can, in a way. But sometimes I'm like, wow, is that careless or not? I mean, you grew up with a little bit of that.
And and because we were exposed to so much, therefore it set choices before us. My dad would take us to the Dam Square in Amsterdam, and then we'd be walking down through the red light district, past all the houses of prostitution, past the pentagram on the door, Kirk van Satan, the Church of Satan, and so we saw this was our whole life. Did we get him? Did we? Did it expose us to more than we needed to? Yeah, probably did in some ways. But it also set before us life and death. We had to choose blessing or cursing, and we were not in some incubator. And I don't want to say anything against anybody who watches this who might have more of an incubator type of church setting. If that's where you feel the pillar and the cloud is leading you, then I want to bless you. But for some of us, it's going to be more of a radical, maybe I shouldn't use that word, but a different course.
So we've talked a lot about the hard parts. Feels like we've talked a fair amount about the hard parts. Like, what is it?
I've cried a few times.
What's the upside? Like, what's the upside? Is there an upside?
Thank you very much. What's the upside?
Like, why should anybody do this?
That's a really good question. At this point, I'm probably not as great a salesman.
You're not a very good salesman.
I'm not a very good salesman right now. Yeah, I'm in a reality phase more than an opportunistic type of. Yeah. John the Baptist, he said, and I realize there's phases in life. John the Baptist said, "Are you the one, or should we look for another?" So there's times in our lives. I have moments. One of my favorite authors is Phil Yancey, in all his books, and so I have some that I pick up periodically, every 3 years to read, just to come back to. I love how he wrestles. He wrestles with reality. He uses words and he challenges things, suppositions. So, yeah. I don't know if ask me another question. Let me think about that one.
Okay. So, this one might be worse. How long have you had this bulk food store?
We've had this store now 6 years.
And has it been a blessing?
Yes, from a financial aspect, we've just this year, when we got counsel to start this store from a store in Dixon, the Eshes have a store over there, and Brother Esh said you should reach 1 million in about year number 3. Well, we finally reached 1 million at year number 6. We've just crossed that threshold. Now, to those of us that are listening in, that's just a number. It's what you got left over at the end of the day after paying all the families that work here and all the product and the taxes and the lights and everything else, as you all know. So Henry Detweiler said, down in Florida, my old friend, he has about 7 or 8 public size stores like this. And he says, have fun for the first 6 years. Just relax, enjoy it. And my friend Myron Miller, in Holmes County, Ohio, says what he sees, it takes about 10 years to get established with a store like this. Has it been a blessing? Absolutely. We eat out of the store. It provides work for our young people. It provides a tremendous opportunity. Every community needs a store like this. Every community to be able to rub constantly, rub salt, rub light, shine light, rub salt. It's just a tremendous meeting. I'm not saying it's the only way, but it's one aspect.
So that is a. I think a lot of it in systems. So often I think about church planting. And something that I think about as part of that system is bulk food stores. Ironically enough, a group started in Phillipsburg, Pennsylvania, which is about 30 minutes from us. One of our brothers went up there, and a friend of mine, another friend, joined him up there. They have several families now, but they started the bulk food store up there.
Now, 2 years ago, Joel was seriously thinking about.
Yeah,
I wondered.
Joel is up there, and then also Earl has a store. Earl Rissler has a store up there.
Mm-hmm.
So that is like they were talking about starting a store, and I was kind of in on that conversation, and it was kind of the store thing didn't interest me that much at the time, but then they were like, we're thinking about maybe starting a church up there, and I'm like, wait, now I'm interested. Like, now this sounds like a great idea. I wasn't interested in driving 30, 40 minutes to another community to work, but to kind of have that as a place where the church meets the community is kind of a neat idea. So, and also young people, work for young people, especially young girls. There seems like there's a job opportunities for young girls are a little more. It's more difficult to find ones that we're comfortable with. And
it's definitely a lot of work.
yeah,
So my wife is the spearhead. She bounces stuff off of me, and we work together as a team. But she is out here. She was my secretary in my other business before I married her.
okay.
So she knows how to do books and all that stuff. So I had to finally say, no, we're giving that now to somebody else. But yes, it's been a real blessing. I would definitely recommend, but it's a lot of work. I'll just say that to anybody looking in.
And
A question to ask is, how many of these do you see multi-generation? Just ask that question. And
I know that's my next concern. There is I'm not specifically worried about this store, but in bulk food stores, we see that the turnover burnout can be really bad. Some stores do better than others.
But how many multi-generational dairy farms do we see anymore either?
Yeah.
So as Joel Salatin says, it has to make a profit.
Right.
So at some point in the time, we have to, for the young ones to see viability,
right.
There has to be something. If they just see mom and dad struggling all the time,
And that's so that same concept is probably exactly where you would have had some background in the evangelistic world. You know, it has to make a profit. Like not as in not only it doesn't have to be a monetary profit, but definitely a some kind of like you need to see return. Like how long can you do this without seeing a return? And I think that's something that we all struggle with to some degree is in my heart if if I thought there would be large returns, you couldn't chain me to the house. Like I would be on the street all the time if I thought there would be large returns. But I've been there, done that, and have seen mediocre to no returns.
Now, if Captain Ludlow Walker was sitting here, he would say, "Brother," he's like, "it's your job to sow the seed, and the rest is the Holy Ghost problem." We'd go with him down there on ship watch or go with him to the Bahamas on a cruise, and we'd be down in the hold of the ship ministering, inviting the crew in, ministering to them. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how to answer that question. Do we just look at results? And I put this, if you would drive up to my house and hold your camera up on my wall outside my house, I got a 8-foot banner running this way of Hebrews 11. At the bottom it says, "Of whom the world was not worthy." And at the top I take great comfort in the 6 names that are at the top. The 6 names. And it starts Barak and Jephthah and David and Samson. I mean, you would go to church with Samson, member at your church, and Samuel. And I missed one. And every one of those guys was a coward or a liar or a murderer or an adulterer. Every one of them, but they were also all courageous men. Or they couldn't keep their children, didn't know how to communicate with their young people. And Samuel, although he didn't allow one of his words to fall to the ground, yet he's up there with the heroes of faith. Even though he lost all his children, his sons didn't follow. So I guess, as Dean Taylor would say, the Hutterites were the Marine Corps of the Anabaptists, or the Martyr Synod, where they all met and they all got different jobs and they all got sent out, and they put people in place to take care of their children. Was I 20 years ago? Have I been too preoccupied with my children? Can we be too preoccupied with saving our children and we lose them anyhow to sports and hunting and big tires and big pipes? Or I don't have the answer to this question. Have I been too or do we set out in a suicide mission knowing that we won't be coming back preaching the gospel? And we have lots to say. We judge, we look at people or communities or people who are starting something or they went there, and we have lots of words. You've had words. I don't know that, but you seem like a very opinionated person. And I would say in your 30s, you had some things to say. Maybe you said them under your breath and now you say them out loud. And I did too. Yeah. And I've been so hard on people. I still am. But I'm trying to be more elastic and just let the Lord decide who he wants up there, those 6 names. I take great comfort. If guys like that make it into the heroes of faith, I take great comfort. And maybe we should risk more. And maybe it won't be all nice. And maybe people will judge us after we're gone. And they'll say, what a foolhardy person he was, Samson. What a foolhardy David. What an idiot. You didn't know how to talk to your children. Such a great man after God's own heart. We're cynical. And God's he's the final one that gets to write the story of whom the world was not worthy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I love that reading through Acts. and see, the Philippian jailer, he's on the verge of committing suicide. And the next thing he's baptized, like, and then we need to, then in our churches we're like, oh yeah, you know that we'll hold that one back there. He's not quite. So I wrestle on both sides.
Yes.
My problem
Yes.
is that I wrestle on both sides of the arena because I really, I
Yes.
do desire.
You appreciate the form now. You
Yeah.
appreciate the structure.
Yeah, I do. I do have
Yes.
an appreciation for the structure and the form, but at the same time, I just want. I mean, I want to live in Acts, but I realize how dangerous. I mean, how dangerous that is. So yeah, I just I want to talk to people on the front lines and see where they're at and I think something about. I hear a lot of church planting EPOs. You know what EPOs are? Exaggerated positive outcomes. So EPOs are a huge problem.
I wondered if I was going to be some exaggerated positive thing. So that's why I told you before you came that I'm in a little bit of this valley right now. The grass is pretty deep right here. Go ahead. EPOs.
So you hear, I mean, missions have a severe problem with this. So
Yeah.
if you're in a mission organization, you really need to raise funds. You really got to give the
Sure.
positive out.
I understand that.
Now, I grew up with that. My dad was an evangelist, and in more ways than one. But he also went around and preached, weekly meetings at every fellowship church and
Wow.
probably a lot of beachy churches. I mean, he was a pretty popular evangelist, and
Wow. Did your mama die early?
no,
Earlier? Did your
no,
mom?
my mom's still alive.
Your mom's still alive. Okay.
And so, as a little boy, 4, 5, 6 years old, I was the youngest of the three oldest. So I was not. There's a 7-year gap between me and my younger sister. So I was not. I didn't stay home by myself, and I was a real mama baby. So I was always scared. I was really scared of strangers. But I wasn't to the point where they felt like they could leave me at home. So I always went along. So I got to go to these terrifying churches and sit up there on the front bench and listen to my dad preach. And I experienced a lot of the same things.
Been there, done that.
I experienced a lot of the same things that my dad experienced. But hearing him tell the story sounds so much better than the one I gave or the one I felt. So we have that problem in like right now. I feel like I'm the dad. I'm loving my church experience.
And it's terrifying to
And I wonder, and my children are like I'm like, hey, I want to go visit that church, and this random church here or there will be like, hey, will you come preach for us? And I'm like, sure, absolutely,
Yeah, praise the Lord.
I'm ready to go. And my children are like, what? Do they have to go? Like, can we stay home this time? Like, do we? So,
but you're concerned that they don't become mediocre.
yeah.
Or why'd you sigh? Why'd you sigh right there?
Well, it's more that I did not enjoy what I went through. I mean, it was it was tough for me. I don't want my children to have to go through what I went through to get to where I'm at.
But you know that is what makes you the great man that you are, is everything that you go through, and then we try to save our children from the very things that have made us into the great people that we are.
Well, that's partly true. But it seems like there should be some way to learn from just the wisdom instead of having to actually go through the hard stuff.
I can't.
So yeah, I tend to be really enthused about some stuff and not. I see that my children are not as much, and I feel for them. I really feel. I do. I feel a little bit. I feel a lot. Like, wow. Like, I understand why they wouldn't want to go to a whole church full of strangers and.
Sure.
But that's that thing with, I'm the dad now. my children are now listening, are now watching and listening and trying to figure out. I'm going to say, yeah, my church experience is awesome, and they're going to say, well, no, it's terrible. Like we're always doing things that we're not used to, and I don't know what I don't know what in 20 years I don't know what they're going to say,
But if they come through, so right now they're given the opportunity to forgive. They have to forgive you. They have a choice. They can either harden their hearts and become bitter, or they can forgive you. And then if they forgive you, this all becomes fodder. This all becomes ammunition. This all becomes artillery. This all becomes part of their repertoire that they can use then to go into the next generation. And I don't know if great men or leaders or anybody who is influential, if their children can get away from that.
yeah, that is a problem.
I mean, just pick anybody. If you're more high profile, I don't know.
It's so funny because when I was young married, it's like, dude, I'm going to farm back. I mean, we're literally 150 acre farm, beef cattle, produce, and I'm going to have. I'm just not going to do anything.
Serious?
I'm not going to do anything.
That was your goal?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I wanted my children to grow up on a farm, and I made the choice. We got married, and I had nothing. I was actually in debt, bad debt. When we got married, no money, and I had a couple things. I knew how to do mason work, and I knew there was good money in it, but I just thought about, I'm going to be away every day, 8 hours a day. I was like, I want to farm. And my father-in-law is a farmer, and he gave us the opportunity to round a few acres off of his property, and I was like, let's do it. So we rented sub-rented from some land from him and lived the dream.
Wow.
I mean, our children were little, we lived the dream.
You serious?
Until my oldest son was 10 when we left the farm. And that is one of the points, that is one of the areas of conflict is that.
I'm sorry. That's painful. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for him.
I loved it. Like, that was my life. That was who I wanted to be.
So why?
I wanted to be a farmer, and I still consider myself a farmer, although I'm getting further and farther away from it.
But some ideology became more important than that. What was that ideology?
Well, I read a book.
Dangerous thing to do.
I actually read several books, but I had been in a kind of in a question about what
I'm not sure yet.
about what church should look like.
Hi, how are you, man?
Well, how are
Hi,
y'all?
Happy New Year.
And how I wanted to be really intentional about how I shaped my life. And I wasn't seeing what I was looking for in the church that I was a part of. Not knocking them at all. I feel like the culture,
Yes.
it was not a bad culture. Like,
Sure.
in a lot of ways, very restful culture. I feel like I could have been there today and had maybe better results than what I have now. But as I was,
You could stop right there. That was quite a mouthful. Go ahead.
but as I was just wrestling for years about what I really want to see in
The
a church,
pillar and the cloud for you.
and so I felt like we should move. I started really feeling like we should probably move. But I was where I wanted to be, exactly where I wanted to be. I love plants. I love cattle even more. Um, just nothing like going out. I'd go out and lay in the field, and cows would come up and smell me, and if I needed to pray, I could go back to the barn in the wintertime and feed cows hay, and it was just perfect place to pray. But I just started feeling like we needed to do something different, and I really wasn't interested because I literally had looked at all
Now,
the
I
churches.
want you to see the tears in his eyes. He's speaking as viscerally down here. This is very dear to his heart.
And I just wanted more out of church. So as I was looking at options, I looked at almost every church I could think of. But every time I looked at another church, I was like, it's just a different version of what we already have. Like, why bother? Spent some time. We went and did a little short stint at a boys' ranch. Kind of got off the farm and got away and did a couple years at a boys' ranch and had some time to kind of think proactively or where I wasn't right there. And as we were gone, our church started having some of the ripplings that were happening before. It kind of started coming to the surface a little more. And we got back, and I really didn't feel comfortable anymore. And I felt like we should move, and I told the Lord, you know what? Here's the deal. I'm where I want to be. So if my father-in-law comes, if my father-in-law moves, and there was another brother that I was pretty stable that I admired, I said, if they both move, and our farm sells, then I'll consider moving.
Wow. Dangerous. Risk.
So
Dangerous.
I laid out a bulletproof
Wow.
fleece.
Wow.
I don't think it was. I mean, my father-in-law was a big-time farmer. He had hundreds of acres and cattle and equipment, and like he wasn't just going to pick up his backpack. He's not like my dad moving where you can just
Yes.
you know.
Not an evangelist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Type.
So I wasn't. He had talked about it for years, but never really. Nobody took him serious. I don't think it was 3 months later. He comes to me and says, we're going to move. I knew in that moment that I was toast. And so, yeah,
And the other two?
the other two within 6 months. Well, I still didn't know where to go.
Yeah.
But in that time frame, I'm not sure exactly when, but brother stopped by and he was like, hey, I got a book I think you'd enjoy. And he's like, he brought it in. He's like, I don't have time to read it, big, thick book. He said, but you'd probably like it. He said, I actually don't even agree with the guy much, but I think you'd kind of like it. So I read it. And I was like, this is it. This is where I'm going.
Wow.
It was King Jesus Claims His Church. I read that book and I was like, wow, that's a vision for the church that I can get on fire for. So I looked around a little bit and I said, wow, where can I go? I said, why not Hawaii?
Yes.
So, I don't have much, and I'm trying to figure out how this is going to work. And so I said, well, I'll move to Boston for a couple of years, for maybe 2 years, and just kind of get an idea of what's going on and see who's doing what and how this is going to work. So I called my mom and said, hey, can you, we didn't have internet. So I called my mom and said, hey, can you see if you can buy tickets for me to go to Boston? And she was like, what do you want in Boston? So I told her, and she was like, well, if you're looking for a church, why don't you just move here? State College. And that had never even crossed my mind. I literally never crossed my mind because I for one thing, I had no intention of ever moving to Pennsylvania because that's where all the people own a pile, right? In Pennsylvania. And and I'd heard, like, I knew my dad was up there, and I knew they were there, and I'd kind of heard through the grapevine various things from them. Not much, but I just thought they were some sort of little fringe radical charity edge group, and I wasn't looking for anything wild or crazy. I just wanted something wild and crazy. I don't know. So I said, hey, it's just for 2 years. Let's move up there. So we did. I mean, we pulled stakes. I'm going to say from the time that I decided to move to the time I called my mom, and I think mid-January, we moved out there in May.
Wow.
So our farm sold, so we actually had to move. So we had a push and a pull. And interestingly enough, as we were leaving, I won't say the church collapsed behind us, but it almost felt like that. Like all of us, I mean, I want to say 8 or 10 families moved out. Like we were just kind of part of the wave. But I never felt like I was fleeing from anything so much as I wanted to do this new real church thing. Mm. But now we've been there for 8 years. I've still not done anything as interesting as I'd hoped to. Mm. So, but the pillar has stayed there. Mm. It has not moved. Mm-hmm. So that's where we're at.
Wow.
But I still love cattle, and it's not as bad now, but for years I could hardly drive past a field of cattle without just tearing up.
Really?
Because that's who I am.
Wow. That's amazing.
But now, sometimes I'll drive past coming through cities, all the cities on the way out here. For some reason, it was really foggy, and you see this fog, and then the skyline of the city behind the fog. Like,
man, that must have been pretty.
And normally I would look at that and just say, it's dirty old city. Like, I'm a farmer. Like, I go to the city if I have to.
Sure.
But I'm looking at that and I'm like, wow, that is beautiful. That's almost something godly about that. Like something that's, I have more of appreciation than I did, but.
There's much to do. There's work on every hand. Hark, the cry for help comes ringing through the land. Jesus calls for reapers, I must active be. And my brother, he fled away from my dad and wound up in an organic farm in Pine Island. And the guy would chew garlic like my dad and sat cross-legged this far from Matthias's face and called him to honesty and showed up whenever he made a wrong choice in a move and broke something and scream at him and pushed all his buttons like my dad would have done. And God has amazing ways. And so he comes up here to Kentucky, Hopkinsville. He buys a farm up there. And so my brother goes up to work, no Anabaptist type of guy. And so my dad goes to visit my brother. And they're standing on this 350-acre farm, and my brother bought a little Jersey cow, and that was my dad's love language. As a boy, was Jersey cows. And he would have his nephews and nieces milk them while he'd take another mission trip. And after I was born, he had one calf left out of a heifer and then a calf from his prize cow. And then he sold that calf. And then 20 years later, he sees my brother with this Jersey cow, and he got tears in his eyes, and he said, son, he says, I always wanted this for you. And then he's like, but who was going to go? Somebody had to go. And so we saw this, he wanted this, but the call to go was greater. And so he took us with him. So what am I doing? I don't know. I'm not definitely going like he did. I'm not preaching like he did. I'm preaching in a different way. He named me Nathan after Nathan the prophet, which I thought was a loud, thundering guy like my dad. My dad was the loudest preacher I've ever met. Your dad preached loud too. I remember hearing him. But my dad, he didn't need a P. It was before microphones. And so, any PA system. So anyhow, and I always thought that Nathan was some loud, thundering prophet. And then I heard Jonas Buntrager squeaking, crying, preaching a message, and Nathan just squeaked out the words, David, you're the man. And I started crying. I'm like, God, I can do that over a cup of coffee. I'm not a street preacher, but I love evangelism over a cup of coffee. And God, I can do that. So somebody's got to go, brother. Somebody's got to do the cows, and somebody's got to go. And maybe we would do good to those that are called to stay, be careful. And those that are called to go, be careful. That we have a mutual respect for each other, whatever place God calls us.
Yeah, that is for sure. We have so many of the evangelist type. We're already loud, and then we get in people's faces and say, you ought to go. Like, you ought to go. Like, why are you sitting here just living, enjoying life and enjoying all the good things of life? And so,
like Keith Green, Jesus commands us to go. Remember that song? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You read his book, No Compromise?
But talking about songs, did your dad write or modify the song Forward Flock of Jesus?
I don't have the book. I have to go look at it. He has in the back. If he touched it, it's in the back.
I think it has his name on it.
Does it say adapted?
I'm not sure if it just...
those words to that tune? Because it's Onward Christian Soldiers.
Yeah.
So he put the words... that's the only place I've seen. Have you seen it in another book, Forward Flock of Jesus?
Well, I thought it was I don't even know. I mean, is it a song? Do you know if the song is somewhere else to a different tune?
Not that I know of. I've never seen it. I don't know.
I wondered if he actually wrote the song.
Well, I got the book in there. I could go find out real quick.
Out.
Yeah.
But
do you like those words?
Love the words.
Wow. I'm going to look at them.
Love the words.
I'm going to look.
That was actually that was kind of my theme song.
Really?
And as I was looking for new territory.
Really?
But yeah, I love that. Love the words of that song.
Serious. So I'm saying this kind of in jest and a little joking, but my children need to meet your children. And I'm looking for camaraderie and fellowship for other weird people, pardon me, whatever, different, whatever you want to call it, for other people who have been called, that's a better word, who have chosen to follow that call to be a little less conventional.
So they can commiserate a little bit?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a certain benefit in that.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah. So let's get that together. I'd like my children to meet yours.
We should.
Is your oldest a boy or a girl?
Boy. I have all boys except for one. I have one girl.
Serious?
I have one girl.
Wow, fantastic.
She's the middle girl. But yeah, we have a lot of boys. So we definitely have a very, it's fun. I love it. Like, I love, like, children, my boys, as I've enjoyed, especially as they've gotten older. I like little children too, but as they've gotten older and
You got 6.
6.
5 boys, 1 girl.
Yeah. And it's so fun to work with my boys because they're again, like, I've just, I just go back and forth because the other day I was just thinking about it again, like, this is so ridiculous. I have an 18-year-old, I have a 16-year-old, I have a 14-year-old boy. If we had a farm, I have a 10-year-old boy, I have a 4-year-old boy. I go to work every day.
You'd light them up.
They go 30 minutes away, 40 minutes away, my 2 oldest boys, to a landscape center to work. I go, sometimes I take my 14-year-old with me, but a lot of times he has to do school or something else, or customers don't always, I do handyman work, so they can't always go along. So I'm going away to work. It is not the life that I designed for myself when in my 30s.
Mm-hmm. And see, when I set out to 20 years ago, started the AIC, the Anabaptist Identity Conference, I was looking for more this multi-generational faith. At all costs, no, not quite, but it still is. I still am concerned about people that walk away. But I was maybe a little bit too, if God is calling people, maybe we'll have to sacrifice. And maybe your children are not going to have everything nice. And they're going to say, I just wish my dad, we would have had that beef farm. But for whatever reason, you have to follow that in your heart, what God is calling you to do. And they'll have to wrestle. Going to Calvary Bible School as a young man, 3rd term was always the wild term. All the wild kids came. And my sisters and I, we did this evaluation. It was a fun term because there was always life and stuff happening, right? But we did this evaluation. We decided that the ones who were the wildest were the preacher's kids, or the ones who had the most off the.
Yeah, definitely.
So there's that, and I'm not really saying anything negative, but there's more opportunity. They have to make more choices to forgive. Father, forgive the call. Forgive being your father being ordained to them. Forgive. Your children are going to have to forgive you for you answering that call and saying, God, I'm going to leave that farm. Your children are going to have to forgive you. My children have to forgive me constantly. I tell them, you have to forgive me for leaving a good business back there, for leaving a good church, for putting you here with no young people, very few, little. We have to travel out to get, now the younger ones that are coming on, if we hang in there, they're going to have a fantastic youth group. So the hardness of hitting the ground and making a living, those older ones, but if they respond right, I still think it's better that we risk and give our children opportunity to pass the test. Bitterness, forgiveness. And if we take the route of forgiveness, it then opens doors. There were 3 phases of my life. One was, I hate my name. I'm embarrassed of who I am. I want to be a Yoder, a Miller. What's your last name?
Troyer.
I want to be a Troyer. I want to be anything but an Overholt. I want a normal life. 2, I had a revelation when God really touched my heart at 19 at Calvary Bible School. And I had this epiphany, this vision of Jesus, of the cross. And I'm kneeling down and I'm crying and asking God to help me with my sins, my sexual addictions, with helping me to be real and honest. And there's my dad right beside me. And he's asking God for mercy and grace for him. And he's crying. We're both on level ground. That was number 2. So number 1, I hated it. Number 2, I forgave. And number 3, it was the rod in the hand. And God said, what are you doing walking around moaning and griping and complaining? Throw it down and let it start working for you. Throw it down. And so I said, okay, I'm going to exploit the platform in which I was given, the arrow in the home that I was created in, instead of fighting it, running from it, disobeying I'm going to yield, and I'm going to say, God, what do you want me to do with this? And so that's where I'm at today. I'm trying to do what I can to use these. I'm trying to forgive. I have to keep forgiving. So your children will have to forgive you. You're giving them an opportunity to forgive. And if they pass the test, it's going to make them great people.
So it's interesting. My oldest children, the younger they get, the less they care about not having the farm because they don't remember it.
That hurts. That hurts.
Like my 10-year-old, he's like, he kind of likes living. We actually live in town right now. He kind of likes that. It's like, he enjoys, he enjoys the animals and stuff, but he's just not, it's not visceral for him. It's a kind of a neat thing for him. So there's that side that the children that are raised, children like what they're raised with. To some degree. I mean, they're used to.
Wow.
Well, do you have any other words for would-be church planters that?
What's your acronym? RISK.
It was reproducible. We changed it to something else. I forget what it was.
Text me when you think of it.
Well, let's say that the first one was reproducible. I'm not sure. The second one was irreproachable, and then the third one is spirit or supernatural, and then K was for the kingdom. So
Sounds like it's a moving machine.
need that.
Well, I guess I would still say, I still come back to Uri Sharp, and he used the Otto Koning story of the lady who was scared of snakes. And
Oh yeah, wow.
yeah, he used that. He told me that day. And so I have to go back to that, and we have to go back to those moments when you laid that fleece out, and you got to say, God, this is really hard. I'm going to get a biography. I was thinking of some of those guys that went to Asia. Who was it? His wife couldn't stand it, and she died. I mean, he struggled with, and then his manuscripts, was it Taylor? His manuscripts all got burned. It was and they couldn't make any disciples. And I'm like, God, did you bring us up? What'd you do? Did you bring us out here to die?
Exactly.
I mean, what are you doing? I mean, rustle your robes. I mean, like, do something here. And God's like, yeah, he always answers our prayers. It's just that we don't, we like to see things now. I can see things happening. We've had some breakthroughs. We helped a man who had some serious stuff in his life get free and clear his name up in the community, where the children now have an opportunity to move forward. We were able to do that. We were able to help this other congregation get started. That church wouldn't be there if we wouldn't have come here. And our bishop is helping them, and that's flourishing and going good, and praise God. It's providing opportunities for our children. We are blessing the community here. I know we are. We're getting we sang for the old country singer Loretta Lynn for a couple years before she died. We'd go Christmas carol for her. Kids come in our store all the time. People are always telling us, thank you. Thank you.
That's a subject we haven't discussed much at all, but another panel that I've been involved with a little bit is talking about how to business as mission, and how you moving into a kind of a community and contributing to the economy is actually very good, a very good, a noble and good thing to do. And you see that wherever Anabaptists move in, usually is that the economy usually comes up with it.
Wow, that's amazing.
So I guess here in the
So 10% of $1 million is 100,000 that we've put into the in taxes that
oh wow,
we've put into the coffers here.
so you're paying for roads too.
Yeah, is that correct? Did I do the right proper math?
I'm
10%.
not a mathematician, but
Oh, Lord have mercy. Yeah, that's 10, 20. Yeah.
well, any closing words?
Yeah. Follow the Lord. Follow. I'll tell you what. Here's another thing I would say. We had a talk. I've always enjoyed trying to come up with witty titles for talks. We had the Happy Clappy versus the Chosen Frozen. Is there another option? And so we all know happy clappy people in our lives, some family, whatever. You can go that direction into the arms of the society. You start looking like society around that culture. You start aping them. You get their ills, as John. You're in their arms, and you're in their armpits, as John D says. So it's that, but all the while it's yay God. All the while it's like praise the Lord. So that's the happy clappy. That's the extreme. The other extreme is the chosen frozen, who are perfectly content with how they've always done it, and they don't want any ripples, and they're unconcerned. Okay, help me. Help. Look, maybe a little more. Not quite as. See, I'm going to get myself. I'll paint myself in a corner here. I don't want to do. I want to be less judgmental. But anyhow, whatever that looks like, I still say to be, as John Osbaugh told me the other day, that David's son, his mom, his grandma, Granny Byler would say, John, there's power in the separated way. So if you would ask me if I had the option of going to what other church would I go to, I would be in a little bit of a quandary to know what other. I mean, I don't say that it has to be my flavor. We are Amish Mennonite, but I would be in a hard place to be. I would have to be some type of conservative Anabaptist pietist church. I suppose, I worshiped with the Baptists in Poland for a year and a half when I lived there. I worship with anybody. I greet whomever greets me. I don't use that. I go to Russia and a Baptist man wants to greet me. I greet him. I'm ready. I used to play pranks on the Holden Mennonites, and then I married one. But that stiff arm, when you got that stiff arm, that's you could reel them in real fast. And I used to do that, but I don't do that anymore. I don't tell Polak jokes either because my brother-in-law is now Polish. And yeah. So Lord help us all to keep, but I would like that. Let's risk. Let's follow the Lord. Let's try to keep, my wife said to me this morning, we just need to be thankful. If we can stay thankful through it all and just keep our heads down. There's high moments where we're excited about the church plant, and then there's low moments when, we're in the middle of it, and we just need to continue on until the Lord shows us that the cloud is lifted. And we don't be weary in well-doing, for in due season we will reap if we faint not. Let's not faint. Don't faint up there at State College. Keep your courage. That's what the Holman Mennonites say. How's your courage? How's your courage, brother? I like that. Let's keep our courage. So, am I disillusioned? No. Am I a little cynical? Yes. And I like what John D. Martin said. I said, John, Peter J. Twist, John, the lion laying down with the lamb. I mean, the kingdom. John, you're a big kingdom guy, Come on, John. I mean, this is the kingdom now. No, Nathan, he said, I've lived long enough now. I'm an old man. I've seen enough disappointment, enough hurt, enough pain within the brotherhood, the kingdom of God. The lions and the lambs are supposed to be laying down together. Enough biting and fighting and enough pain that I just think that there's another dimension to this kingdom. And he says, however that works out, if the new kingdom's set up on this earth, however it works out, I said, I'm a pan millennial too. However it pans out, I'm fine. But that's good, because we're gonna get bruised, and none of us are getting out of here without blood and a beating. None of us are getting out of here alive. And so we just got to keep girding up, and just you talking is an encouragement to me. Thank you very much for coming here and encouraging me. And let's get our children to talk a little bit and encourage each other. And maybe that needs to be a forum. Maybe you could provide a forum that I could send my children to, these church planters children forum. How about that?
Wonder what that looks like. Well, thanks so much.
Yeah, God bless you, brother.
Thank you for listening. If you find value in these conversations, please share them with others. Now go set the world on fire.